Hello, everybody. My name is Grace Wong. I go to Brighton High School. I'm a senior there, and I'm super excited to be able to introduce Dr. Kimberli Jones to you today. She has a PhD in mechanical engineering, specifically studying corrosion, metal fatigue, and structural integrity, and she works with F-16 aircrafts on their structural integrity program. So I think that's pretty cool. If you wouldn't mind telling us a little bit more about that, Dr. Jones.
I would be happy to. And Grace, feel free to call me Kim. I'm happy to.
Okay.
You don't have to call me Dr. Jones, so all good. But with my F-16 ASIP program, ASIP is Aircraft Structural Integrity Program. ASIP is a big program that the Air Force does, and every weapon system that the Air Force has does ASIP. And we have all kinds of rules and regulations that we have to follow to make sure the aircraft maintain their safety throughout the life that they last. And so that's kind of what we do. But from my side, I make sure that we have enough data to support the analyses and things that we do. And we try to make sure, like I work with cracks and corrosion and things like that. So age-based degradation and making sure the aircraft remain safe as they get older. And I work on the computer a lot, and we talk to people on the phone a lot, you know, the ones that actually are touching the aircraft, but I do get to touch aircraft occasionally as well.
Well, that's really cool. What are the aircrafts made out of? If you're working with corrosion, I'm assuming it's some sort of metal.
Yeah, mostly aluminum. We do have some other things on there, but the bulk of our jet is aluminum.
And how did you get involved working with F-16s and with the Air Force?
Well, this is kind of a fun story. So I did my doctorate at the University of Utah and, focusing on corrosion and fatigue and structural integrity and all kinds of good things that apply to aircraft. And I was actually involved with a program during my PhD that we worked with the Air Force on a corrosion fatigue structural demonstration program is what it was called. And so, I thought that was be a good career path. And so when I finished up my doctorate, I started applying for jobs, and I got picked up by a contractor for Hill Air Force Base doing work for the F-16 and the ASIP program. And then after being there for 5 years, the government actually approached me and said, do you want to become a government employee? And I said, sure. So I've been there my entire career, basically doing the same thing, but on the government side, I have a lot more programmatic liberties. Like I get to run a lot more stuff. So I'm running like about a $25 million program right now. I have about 25 people that work underneath me. So working on the government side has opened up a lot of opportunities.
So you're pretty up there then, it sounds like.
I've been there a day or two, yes.
What exactly is your degree? It sounds like you're a mechanical engineer. Is that your official title?
Yes, so I have 3 degrees. I have a bachelor's and master's and my doctorate on mechanical engineering, but my master's was in a completely different area. I did ergonomics and safety. So within mechanical engineering, there's all sorts of different subsets of things that you can do. And one of those is ergonomics and safety. So ergonomics, how people sit at a table or if they work, how's their body position, things like that. Repetitive motion, things like that. You're trying to help people. And then safety could be anything from system safety to all kinds of safety that you might look at in a process, things like that as well. So that was my master's. And then my doctorate, I can tell this story now too. I was trying to apply for jobs after my master's. And one of my professors, I went to class and I was all dressed up and he says, you aren't interviewing for jobs, are you? And I'm like, yeah, I'm about to graduate with my master's. Why not? And he said, come talk to me. So I went and talked to him in his office and he said, you should think about coming and doing a PhD with me. He was the one that was doing the work with the Air Force. And so I got drawn into that. And so I had a good time. And those are all my degrees, basically.
That's really cool. There's a lot more to mechanical engineering than just like the standard stuff you would normally think of.
There are so many different fields, like pages of them, and lots of different specialties you can go into. It's very broad, probably the most broad engineering field there is.
So has your PhD opened any doors for you? Like, are you glad you got it?
Yes, absolutely. So I mentioned that my master's was in ergonomics and safety. So as an undergrad, you take all your basic classes, right? You take all the things, that everybody in those kinds of fields has to take, and then some specialized to mechanical engineering. But my doctorate really was focused on the materials side. I took classes from the metallurgical engineering department. I took classes in corrosion, and those were all things that I hadn't taken as an undergrad. And so it really did open up a lot of opportunities for me just because I had focused in those fields and then done a lot of research in it too. But it's been really fun. I mean, I have been all over the world. I've got to travel a lot. I've been involved with NATO and a lot of their research organization stuff. So it's opened up a lot of opportunities.
Yeah, I was told that you are on some international committees, like
Yes.
NATO. How does that, like, what do you do with those?
So NATO has this whole research organization, and they get all the countries together and they work on different projects. And this is a very big deal. I mean, there's all the countries fund everything. So like the United States puts in so much money every year. So when we go to these meetings and things, like we don't have to pay anything because the countries have already paid for it. But we work on all kinds of different problems. I mean, there's so many different areas within NATO and things they work on. Like you probably remember hearing about the volcanic eruptions over like in Iceland a few years ago, and how
Yeah, I
aircraft
think so.
problems flying through those with the jet engines and stuff like that. So they had a group that was working on that problem. The group that I worked with, we were working on trying to get ASIP, those principles more into more areas. So like mechanical systems for aircraft, that could be anything from the environmental control system or brakes and landing gear, things like that. It's trying to get all of our good ASIP principles, because ASIP has been around a long time, and trying to incorporate that into other areas. So that was the group I worked with.
That's really cool. Did you have a favorite place you visited while on that board?
Oh gosh, we got to go to Greece. That was probably my favorite, Athens area.
Greek food is really good.
It is really good. And I was going to say, we ate at a lot of really good restaurants there. So there's another side benefit.
What has your experience been being a woman on all of these things in STEM, like in college and in your field? How has that played out for you?
Most of the time, most people are fine with me being a woman. Like you don't even realize it. So I was thinking about this after I got your list of questions, but my undergraduate class, we probably had 40-ish people graduate with my mechanical engineering class. And 5 of those were women. And that was it.
Wow.
Yeah. And now, I mean, the numbers are way bigger. There's so many more people in engineering now, but that was my group, the people that mostly went through and graduated with me. But I didn't ever feel like anybody really cared. Like there's always some people out there, especially in my career, but in school, it didn't bother me at all. In fact, I thought it was kind of fun because all the women, especially, we kind of all came together and we were all friends, and it was fun that way. But in my career, most people are fine, but occasionally you come across, a man usually. There was an example. I was talking to somebody after I'd given a talk at a conference, and he came and talked to me, and he's like, "Oh, well, I'm going to go ask this other person this question." And I said, "I've actually been working on the F-16 longer than him. Why do you want to ask him that question?" And I said, it was basically, he was an older gentleman. And I was just getting the impression that he's like, "Oh, you're just a girl, you don't know." And I'm like, "I've been working on this program longer than he has. I have the history. I can tell you the answer." So sometimes you get those kind of people, but generally it's not too bad. People are usually, they just treat me as a human and I treat them as a human, and it's all good.
So, what inspired you to become a mechanical engineer? Like, it's not necessarily the career you'd normally expect a young girl to want to go into.
It's true. I was fortunate from a very young age to have a lot of teachers that encouraged me to take a lot of math and science. So when I was still in middle school in ninth grade. That's how my career, my education was set up then. But you're in ninth grade, you're picking your classes for high school. My ninth grade biology teacher was like, "Oh, you really should, take all the math and science that you can. Make sure you sign up your sophomore, junior, senior year for everything." And I'm like, "Okay." So I did. And, when you start going out to universities and looking at different colleges and programs and things, I was just really drawn to engineering. I always really liked aircraft and space things. I think working for NASA would be really fun, but I have to be honest, with their funding problems that they've had over the last decade plus, depending on who the president is, they really have a lot of funding problems potentially. And so the Air Force is pretty well funded. And so I felt that was a pretty good place to land. But I just really liked it. And then as I got into college, I actually declared mechanical engineering as my master, or my degree, my degree field, and I never changed. So
Wow.
yeah, most people usually change their major a few times, but I never did. I got into mechanical engineering, and so, because it was so broad, there's so many things to focus on. I was never bored, and I said, "Oh, I could definitely stay here." So I'm glad I did.
Would you have done anything differently in high school, or are you pretty happy with what you did?
I am pretty happy with what I did, just because I had those mentors basically that really helped me and encouraged me to take math and science. and not take the easy way out. Don't take underwater basket weaving, go and hard classes, take AP classes, try and do as much as you can in high school, because why not? It just opens doors for you.
Yeah, you might as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Did you have any hobbies in high school, or do you have any hobbies? I'm sure you have some hobbies now.
Yeah. Well, and I was going to say, I was talking to Allison about this, but both in high school and college, I did band. I was total band geek. I played flute. I ended up learning mellophone in college, and that was the most fun I had in college. I mean, engineering school is hard, and you do a lot of homework and you study a lot, and it's a lot of pressure and stress just because you always have, at least if you want to graduate in 4 years, you have a lot of classes you have to take. And there's constant homework stream, lab reports, things that you are working on. So you have to have some fun. So I did marching band, pep band, concert band, flute choir, all kinds of things. And with that, I got to go to the Final Four with basketball and bowl games with football team. And we had a really great time. So I don't regret any of it. I had a really good time in high school and college, even though my grades maybe not were exactly what they should have been in college, but it was good enough to get into grad school. And, but you have to have some fun. You got to do a stress reliever. You can't study all the time.
I actually used to play the flute too, but
Yay.
dropped it.
That's awesome.
Do you feel like any of the instruments were super obnoxious? We always joked about the trumpets in my band, but
trombones. Yeah. Those are the ones.
There's a really funny, last year for one of the basketball games, our trombone section decided to go to the gas station, get a bunch of Red Bulls before the game. So it was really interesting. It was interesting, but.
Oh, I bet it was. I'm sure they were very energetic.
Yes, very energetic. Let's see. I think we've kind of covered everything on the list. Is there any advice you'd like to give girls going into STEM?
I say the sky's the limit, and don't be afraid to try. I mean, what's somebody going to tell you? No. I mean, that's the biggest thing I say is go out there, take all the math and science classes. If you need help, go get help. I actually failed a statics class my first or second year of engineering school. And the reason why is because I wasn't studying the right way. I hadn't learned yet. And you'll figure this out when you go to college. You have to figure out how to study for college, because what I was doing in high school wasn't working for me in college and engineering school. And so, don't be afraid to fail. Don't be afraid to keep trying. Don't be afraid to talk to people and get help. Find your study group, find those study partners. Just figure out what's going to work for you and go for it. Because really, there's no limitations. We can do anything. So ladies, that's your challenge.
Well, thank you so much for being here and answering all these questions for us. It was really awesome to get to meet you today.
Thanks, Grace. It was really fun to get to talk to you. You seem really great too. Hopefully we'll meet in person someday.
Yes, that would be awesome.